In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, I welcome you all with the best greetings of Islam, Assalamu alaikum, and then with the English greeting, good evening to everyone. So it's me, Basila, and I am from John Bulls Academy. So today I am going to talk about a topic, and that is about Allah. Do you know who is Allah? Allah is the creator and destroyer of this whole universe. Almighty mentions in the Quran, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I made the people just to worship me. We all are here to worship Almighty because Almighty has said this thing to us. If we will talk about Almighty, so Almighty knows about each and everything what is going in our day-to-day life. If a leaf falls down, Almighty knows whether it will fall from right side or it will fall from left side. If we will talk about an ant, a small insect, Almighty knows when ant is walking, Almighty listens the steps of her walking also. Even if the ant is walking, in the middle of the mountains where no one is there, Almighty listens the ant also at that time. And Almighty says that whenever a person asks to Almighty about anything, Almighty is getting modesty. Almighty says that whenever a person tells me to give him something, so I'm getting modesty that how can I leave a person without giving him anything. My dear brothers and sisters, Almighty is very much merciful to us. If there will be seas, do you know the water? If we look at oceans, seas, lakes, there are a lot of water. If the water will be the ink and the trees will be the pen, still we cannot write the mercies of Almighty. Have you noticed those people who are not having one arm, who are not having one leg, but now if we will look at ourselves, we are able to talk, we are able to walk. Are we able to walk? There are some people who are not having their parents, but we are able to go to our school, we are able to get our education, and we never struggle for anything. Do you know, right now a person is very much unthankful to the Almighty because Almighty gives us everything and still we are not praying to Salah. The things that Almighty says us, we are not doing those kind of things. We are unthankful to the Almighty, but still Almighty gives us that things that we want. Whenever we bow down in front of Almighty, we just feel peace. Have you ever noticed? When there is no one in the room and you ask Almighty anything, by your pure heart, you just tell to Almighty, oh Almighty, forgive me. Almighty forgives you. Almighty says that if you have done thousands of sins and you will come to me, you will bow down in front of me, I will forgive your all sins. And Almighty Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that when you have to go to paradise or you have to go hell, you would be having the distance of a zira. Zira means the play, the time from this to this. How much time it will be? It will be not that much time. And Almighty says that if you have done thousands of sins and at that point of a time you will do a good thing, so you will definitely go to the heaven. Now, for the thousands of years you have done the bad, good deeds, and at that point of a time you will do the bad deed, so you will go to hellfire. So you need to think about it. Almighty, if Almighty is this much merciful to us, can't we pray to Almighty? Or we should always have muraqabah. Do you know what does that mean, muraqabah? We should always think in our mind that Almighty is always looking at us. Do you know the meaning of ihsan? Ihsan means that you will think in your mind that I always see Almighty. If not this, so you think that no, Almighty is looking at me every time. Ittaqillaha haysuma kunta. Whenever you are anywhere, Almighty is looking at you. Is there any place where you cannot do the sin? Is there any place? No, there is not any place. If you will go to that place where there is no one, still you cannot, still Almighty is looking at you. So I want to conclude my topic by saying that don't be unthankful to the Almighty. Always worship to the Almighty. Always bow down in front of the Almighty. Just because Almighty will give you so much fruitful things if you will bow down in front of Almighty. So that's it.